It's something that Dad really loved. It was one thing that was consistent in his life, that he loved to fly. He was a great man. He's a tough act to follow. I've grown up here. The farm's been in the family for over 100 years. A lot of good memories, a lot of history. Dad was born and raised on this farm. He went through 8th grade, and then that was it. He didn't go to high school. When he was 18, he was drafted into military service. He wanted to fly in World War II, but they said that he was colorblind, so he ended up being a technical sergeant. Spent his entire life here then after the war. Married a girl here from the congregation, and he ended up having 6 children. I'm the youngest of the 6. This is a 1946 J3 Cub. It was built right after the war. And of course, Dad has a lot of fond memories of the close of World War II because that meant he got to come home. He had flown other airplanes as well, bigger ones, more expensive ones, whatever. But the Piper Cub is a very simple, straightforward, the joy of flight kind of airplane. That was kind of the deciding factor, that if you're going to purchase an airplane, it's going to have to be a Piper Cub. The pure joy of getting up in an aircraft, what's that like? I guess the freedom is a good word for it. The view, I think, is a lot of it. If I'm just flying around here, I'm just able to see it from a perspective that a lot of people don't.
For anybody, right, what is your passion? And when you see it for somebody, it's like, oh, please go do that, you know? Because that's what's important. That's why you want to get up every morning. That's why you want to go do it. And so for flying, that's for Tim.
That's up to you guys, wherever you want to go. But you can't be late.
Ed was in the lower part of the barn cleaning up after the hogs. And he saw a storm coming up but didn't think much of it. Nothing was really forecast for severe weather. And he heard the wind blowing, and then he heard the freight train sound. And he knew it was a tornado. And he looked out and he saw the trees going horizontal toward him. He turned around and watched the barn fall, and he didn't have time to get out, so the building collapsed on him. My mother was in the house, and the house was moved 2.5 feet by the tornado. And she came out then and saw all the destruction, and she didn't know where Dad was. So she was walking around calling for him, and he heard her, and he said, "I'm under the barn, and I'm under a lot of pressure, a lot of weight, and I don't know how long I can survive. I love you, goodbye." Friends and neighbors all came from miles around to help get Dad dug out of the barn. So they brought tractors and jacks and so forth, and got the barn up high enough that they could get him out. Obviously, the first few months were very difficult for him, dealing with the loss and so forth, but he was also very thankful that there was no loss of life. It helped him to reprioritize, where he realized that the things that were lost can be replaced, but a life with the person that you've loved all your life, cannot be replaced. One of the things that was lost in the farm was an airplane that we'd only had for a few years. The tornado pulled the airplane out of the building and then tumbled it along the ground until its final resting place. So it was complete destruction. He was sad about the airplane because that was the one thing that he would use kind of as an escape. I thought maybe that was the right time to get my license in so that I could help him replace the airplane and that he and I could fly together as he was aging. I didn't tell him that I was going through pilot training until one day I flew in here and I landed the airplane out here. He was kind of shocked. I got my license, and then he and I were able to do some flying together, and we purchased this airplane together. It needed a lot of work, and so it took a lot of time and effort. We spent about 4 months basically get it back to airworthy condition. So it was a good father-son bonding time.
Alfred had Parkinson's, and so Parkinson's is a horrible disease because it takes your life little by little.
He still retained his sense of humor during it all, and putting others first. He taught us how to live and also how to die. He really did. Of course, I love to share the joy of flight with others, and a lot of people seem to appreciate it. So that's always good when you can put a smile on somebody's face. If they ask why the airplane and so forth, it gives me an opportunity to tell stories about Dad and how much I loved him and how much he loved the joy of flight.
You keep a count for how many times you fly?
I keep a logbook, yeah.
Over 1,000?
You mean in my lifetime?
Yeah.
I have about 3,000 landings.
Wow.
About 3,000 takeoffs, too. Funny how that works. If you'd like to fly a little bit, I can show you what it's like. Just like that.
Dang. Real touchy?
It doesn't take much. Fort Wayne, Cardinal 177 JR is back to our point of departure. We'll be landing shortly.
It was just a thing, between him and his dad, and the fact that they both loved to fly. Just all of the family memories that were associated with this house and this farm and this place. You're just thankful that you can share it.